I give everyone the greetings from Islam by saying Salaam Alaikum, meaning peace be upon you. When Muslims meet each other, that's what they do. Instead of saying hi, they say Salaam Alaikum. I'm going to go through, and then the previous prayer in Islam, it says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and it translates in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. So this is the prayer Muslims do whenever they undertake any job or anything they would like to do, even going out to your car, opening the door, that's what you say, Bismillah. So you are doing something in the name of Allah. I'm going to go use some slides here, and don't worry about them. I'm going to send them to Jordan, and he's going to send them to you if you would like. So you don't have to sit there and take notes. So a little about me, and I'm going to skip that because he just said it. I'm not going to repeat that to you. So our presentation goals tonight is to provide you with a general overview of Islam, and then to learn about some of the teachings of the Quran, which is really, Islam is really can be equated to the Quran. So I will give you an overview of that, and then in about 20 minutes to 25 minutes, it will be open for this question, for your questions. That's how we learn best. So as an introduction, the word Islam comes from the word aslama, which means to submit or to surrender. And to surrender to who? You surrender to Allah, which is God. And Allah is not just the God of the Muslims, He is the God of all humanity and all the creatures on this earth. He is not exclusive to Muslims. This is the other meaning of the word Islam, is peace, and that's why Muslims greet by saying Salam Alaikum, peace be upon you. And by the way, Islam is embedded in every Muslim's life, from the time they get up in the morning until they go to bed at night. And again, I mentioned Allah is the God of all humans, including Jews, Christians, Muslims, and other people who don't believe in Jesus or Moses or Muhammad. We do not leave those people out. Those are also the creatures of God, not the children of God. Muslims don't say that. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go through this, so keep your questions and I will answer at the end. Okay, Islam. Most people, if they ask them about Islam, they know that Muslims believe in 5 things. One of them is to declare your faith, and that is simply saying, I believe in God and Muhammad is his prophet. And if you translate that, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And why is that? Some people ask, how come Muhammad is mentioned and you believe in Moses and Jesus and so on? Muslims say Muhammad is the last prophet. So if you believe in him, then by extension, you believe in Moses and Jesus all the way up to Adam. In Islam, Adam is considered a prophet. Then Muslims do the 5 prayers that most of you know, that Muslims do them before sunset, in the middle of the day, in the afternoon, and then at sunset, and then in the evening. And then they do fasting which is the month of Ramadan. We can talk about that later. Almsgiving, which is zakat. Muslims give 2.5 to 10% of their extra income, their savings, and they give it to those who are needy. And that is a requirement. And then the last one is pilgrimage to Mecca, if you are able to do it. So the questions becomes, why do we do these rituals? What is the point? And the point is this. First, the prayer itself is a relationship between you and God. You can do it anytime, you can do it 5 times, more times, and it gives you that peace and tranquility you need in your life. Like they say, to walk with God during that time and to submit to Him. And when you submit to God, what does that mean? Meaning you do what He asked you to do, like it is delineated in the Quran and in the Bible, the books He sent down. It also teaches you self-discipline and concern for others. Fasting and giving money or helping others. That's one of the tenets of Islam too. But Islam goes beyond that. You have to elevate it. There is a higher dimension of Islam, which is faith. The Arabic word for it is iman. And what does that include? Again, to believe in that Allah, or the one God, also to believe in the angels, to believe the scriptures that were sent, the Torah, the Injil that was given to, the Torah given to Moses, the Injil given to Jesus. And there is one I left there also, the Psalms given to David, and then the Quran. So you believe in all those books. They also believe in all the messengers. I just listed a few of them, but there is about 25 mentioned in the Quran. And the tradition says there is actually more than that. There is about 2,000 of them. And then the last one is the day of judgment. That means we are going to be resurrected, bodily resurrection, and we are brought in front of God to account for what we have done on this earth. So what is the point of this again? You say, why do I do all this stuff? Because then it gives you a thing to believe in the unseen. Nobody has seen God. Nobody has seen the angels. Yeah, we have seen some of the books. A lot of us didn't meet Abraham or Jesus. So how do we believe in them? We believe in them by faith. Just we do it. And faith in itself, also the purpose of it, it gives you motivation. It gives you purpose in this life. And it helps you deal with if you have an anxiety or any trouble in this life, that you know there is another life coming, especially the day of judgment, if you have done well. And then a third dimension that takes you even higher, and this is called ihsan, which includes, basically the definition is that anything you do, you would think that God is looking, and you are, of course, you can't look back at God, but to be aware of God, of everything you do. For example, taking care of your parents, respecting all the creatures on this earth, whether they were animals, plants, whatever that God gave us. He told us, this is an amana. This is a trust I gave you. You need to take care of it. Being sincere, charitable, all the good things that found in all religions that makes us good human beings. So the whole idea is to do the rituals, to believe, and then to elevate, to do even better as a human being. And that's how you do that. you become, the purpose of it is to be aware for everything you do that God is looking, and you don't know that. The Quran, very important book, and this is where Muslims go for all their teachings. Basically, it means reading. The word Quran comes from Iqra, which is to read. So the Quran is the reading. If you ask a Muslim to bring me a book, they will immediately, it's called Al-Kitab. They will immediately rush and get you a Quran, which is the book. They say it is the first book written totally in Arabic. Muhammad was not an author of the book. He was illiterate. He didn't know how to read or write. So how did he get it? He was inspired from God, and angel Gabriel came to him when there is a chance to comment on an event, or God wants to tell people about something. Then he sent angel Gabriel to Muhammad, and he gives them the verses, and then Muhammad recites them to his followers, and then he had the scribes take what he said down, and so they wrote it down, and that is the book that we have presently that came from God through Muhammad, scribes, and down to us. So what does this, the book is very simple. It's just like the size of the Bible, the New Testament, about 114 chapters called surahs. The surahs varies from very short 3 verses or ayat to 280. This is the longest one. All the chapters begin in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. The prayer I said at the beginning of this presentation. That's what Muslims say before they eat, before they go out, before they do anything. The first surah is called Al-Fatiha, which is the opening. And by the way, it is very similar to the Lord's Prayer. That's a whole lecture I can give someday. Very similar, with, of course, some differences. So what is the main message of the Quran? Basically, you can, if someone asks you, what did you learn today or tonight, this evening from this lecture? Well, I knew that the Quran is the book of guidance. So what is that? What does that book contain? First, the book says it was sent to all mankind, not just Muslims. Usually, and you can, I don't know whether you can read this one. This is Arabic, so it is written in Arabic. It goes from right to left, like Hebrew. And if the book is not in Arabic, then it is just an interpretation. It's not really the real book. So it is all written in Arabic. This comes from the Quran. I just quote. It says, this is the book. It is a guidance, sure, without doubt, to those who fear Allah or be aware of Allah. Interpret like that. And what is guidance? How do you get this guidance? Is by believing in this one God, Allah. By the way, Jesus himself spoke Aramaic, and when he spoke, he said Allah, because Aramaic, Arabic, and Hebrew are sister languages. They go back and forth between them. If somebody spoke Aramaic, I will understand almost half of it. So Jesus Christ only spoke Aramaic. And sometimes it pains me to hear that they do not even teach Aramaic in any schools or any universities. And that is the language that Jesus spoke. Anyway, so what are the content of the Quran? If I summarize it, a lot of it revolves around this belief in Allah. This is number one, believing in this one God. He is transcendent and eminent, a description given in other religions, Hebrew. Of course, he's the powerful, the creator, the knowing, and the sustainer, and all those things you probably have known from the Bible. So why is that? It is really the core of the Islamic faith. Everything Muslims believe in comes from God, goes out and come back to believing in God. The second thing that is you find in that book, a lot of stories about the prophets. I just came, I didn't come, I was on Zoom on Bible and Beer, and they were studying chapter 19 in Genesis about Lut, Prophet Lut. This very similar story, you find it in the Quran. 25 prophets mentioned there, from Adam to Muhammad. And the whole idea, why do you have to study all these stories, is to learn from their stories and apply it to your life. There is, I gave many khutbahs or sermons about the chapter in the Quran about Joseph, which is Yusuf in Arabic. And from that chapter only, I mined over 80 lessons about jealousy, understanding your parent, obeying your father, taking care of the needy, and so on, and mercy and forgiveness. All those lessons are embedded in that story, in the Quran and in the Bible. So the Quran says the following: all prophets came down with one message, which is to submit and to surrender to one God. Jesus said it, Moses said it, Adam said it, and all the other prophets. And Muhammad, of course, it is his core teaching. And the whole idea is not a story to just to waste time with. It is to know what is it telling you, because God is speaking here. Okay, the third thing that you find throughout the Quran talks a lot about the cosmos, the earth, the heavens, and hell, and what is going to happen. It talks about human beings, the spirits, the jinn. It tells the story of the devil and how he enticed Adam and Eve to eat, and all that story, very similar to the one in the Bible, is in the Quran. And of course, it talks about man, and this is talking about man, meaning man as a man and woman. So we don't, this is not leaving women out. And their relationship to God. Then something else that goes into number 4 is Ayat Allah, which is, Ayat means signs of God. You look outside your window right now, you look at the trees, you look at the sky, you look at the earth, you look at animals. You need to think about how these things came into this life. You can talk about the sun going down, the night coming, the day going, the sun, the moon, and all these things. But the idea is that the Quran asks you to contemplate, to think about all this creation of God. And that takes you immediately to believing in the power of God, that this stuff just didn't happen by itself. There is a lot of argumentation, just nature did it, but where did nature come from? Questions that were never answered. Then the last one is the last day. This is the day when it is described in the Quran in many places. The trumpet is going to sound, The earth will be folded. Everyone will be called to account for their deeds. That's what is called the day of judgment. And on that day, depending on how you did in this life, you will be either rewarded and go to heaven for eternity, or you will spend some time to pay for some sins you have done on this earth. And most of us are sinners in some way or another. And the whole idea here is to direct you to take some personal responsibility and think about the hereafter. We go day and night thinking about how much money we're going to make, where we're going to live, all these worldly things. We don't think about the hereafter. Actually, this pandemic, sometime there was some sort of blessing in it, although 500,000 of our fellow citizens died and more on that worldwide. But people should have taken this time, as hard as it is, to take some personal responsibility. You put your mask, you help other people, and so on, and to think of the hereafter and those people we lost. And then the last thing that you find in the book, that's a lot not touched on it, but there is a lot of emphasis on individual responsibilities and community responsibilities. One cannot go without the other. In Islam, just believing is not going to get you to heaven. You have to do some action. God gave us this earth and some other needy human beings, and we need to take care of them. So we need to, when we marry our action with our belief, then we have met what God has asked us to do. So a lot of this stuff is also laws about marriage, divorce, inheritance, ethics, how to deal with all kinds of things are described in the Quran. How to fast, you should pray, and so on. Not in detail, but about 10% of the Quran deals with these laws. And the whole point is we are sent on this earth. It says our purpose here is to really to do good and forbid evil. This is our main mission in this life. That's what God said. I send you here to do good and not to do evil. But we look around and guess what? As human beings, a lot of us has failed this test. We always transgress. We always do the wrong thing. A lot of it out of ego. And I will wait for your questions to answer. Jordan asked me to talk a little about the jihad. And in Islam, jihad, of course, it's a bad word, the jihadist, and it has been taken and out of and used in different way. It comes from the word jihad, which is to strive or exert an effort to do something. And the big jihad, they say the story here, Muhammad one time came from people who were fighting him, the non-believers, and they were going to actually put an embargo on him and so on. So he came back from that fight, and people asked him about, we just came from the jihad. He told them, you haven't. Your biggest jihad is the jihad you have against your own evil inclinations, not following what God does. That's the biggest jihad. The small jihad is really the armed struggle. And in Islam, and I'm not going to whitewash it, that's in the Bible and in the Quran. There is a lot about fighting and killing and everything. In the Quran, the verses about that are few, and that's another lecture in itself, but I will say there is no more than a few that says you should fight and kill. But when, with very specific situation, one, to protect your home and your family. If somebody coming to your home to murder your family, you are to protect them. That's just human nature. So Islam allows you to do that. It also, if somebody, not to change somebody to your religion, but if somebody forces you to change your religion, you are to fight them, but not to kill them, but you are to, just not to believe in what they are doing. And if then they fight you, then you have to fight back. In Islam, it's mostly defensive war, if you want to call it. And of course, I can say that. And then you hear about ISIS and all this other stuff and Boko Haram. And none of these guys are following what Islam, and whatever they are doing for me is murder. It is criminal, and they are all actually going to hell over it because they are killing the innocent. And I wrote about this in the newspaper many times. And also to protect the weak and fight tyranny. If somebody is really doing cleansing, by the way, this is being done to Muslims today in China. The Uyghur are being indoctrinated and they are changing their religion for them. So China is not everything from China, but they are not the nicest people when what they are doing to the Muslims in the western part of China. And also in Myanmar, you hear about Myanmar today and Burma, which used to be Burma before, and they are Buddhist. They had a very scorched earth war against the Muslims in that country. 1 million of them, they drove them out of their homes. So the point I want to make over all this, in Islam and the Quran lays it out. You are never to be the aggressor. You are just to protect yourself, your family, your religion, but never to be the aggressor. And I'm going to stop here. I hope I didn't go over. Okay.
No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I think that covers a lot of, I think you do such a good job of kind of distilling what is so much information down to, a short presentation. So I appreciate that. You have a skill for that, for sure.
And I want to tell everybody I will be sending them these slides if they want them. So, and I think I said that before.
Absolutely. Well, as I said, you can put your questions in the chat, whether you're watching over Facebook or here on Zoom. I see a couple of questions coming in. I wanted to start, Mo, just by giving people, while I give people a chance to think of their questions and type them out. Could you talk just a little bit about your experience in practicing Islam and being a Muslim for a very long time in the American West, particularly in Cheyenne? If you could highlight maybe some of the challenges or the joys of practicing Islam where there is not a large Muslim community. There is, I think one of the misconceptions about Wyoming is that, well, we just don't have Muslims, so why do we need to learn about this? Well, that's not true. We've had Muslims for well over 100 years in this state, and we have Muslims in every part of the state. So tell me a bit about your experience in practicing Islam in the American West.
Well, I will just say in general, it is more good than bad. And in my experience, there is not many Muslims. At one time, they said there is about less than 100 families of Muslims in Wyoming, maybe 60 to 100. And most of them either in Cheyenne or Laramie. But remember, in Laramie, they are students, so they come and go. But I mean, settled families in Wyoming, I don't think more than maybe 60 or so. And then there is a mosque in Cheyenne. And then there is another little mosque southeast, southeast Wyoming Islamic Center. I was one of the ones that got that one established. And there is a small one in Gillette. And of course, there is one in Laramie. So there is 3 mosques. But now I am in Denver. There is at least 12 mosques in Denver. So there is a bigger community here. But I was involved a lot in talking about Islam and writing about it in the newspaper in Wyoming. And one of the good and the bad, it happened in 2011. A group wanted to burn the Quran, following a preacher from Florida who said he is going to burn the Quran. It was all over the country and the newspaper. So there is a group of people in Cheyenne. They came in front of the Capitol and they wanted to burn the Quran. Of course, the fire chief, which I knew him, he told them, if you strike a match one in front of the Capitol, all of you guys are going to jail tonight. So guess what? They didn't do that. They got some bacon and they put it around a garbage can, and then they put an interpretation of the Quran, which is in English, which is really, truly, it's not the Quran. They put it in the trash can, and then they did the rituals, and then they were fighting a group that most of them were my friends who stood across the street, mostly from the Unitarian Universalist Church, and they had signs, and then they were sort of getting almost in a fight. And of course, there were a lot of FBI and Homeland Security. And so I walked in there and I spoke in a very low voice, and I just took the temperature down. I invited the guy from this group. If he wants to learn about the Quran, I will be very happy to take him to lunch, teach him about the Quran. He can even bring his friends with him. And I call them, these are friends. They just don't know. And so everybody dispersed. But the group I had with me that came to support Islam, they said they want to know about the Quran, and you're going to hold a class for us. So I told them, yes, I will. So at the Unitarian Universalist Church, I went there. I gave them the date, and I told them I will hold the class for you. And I was looking for a small room to do it. I was expecting 6 to 10 people to show up. 85 people showed up. So we had to move the meeting from that room to the to the sanctuary. And I gave that class for about 8 weeks, only about the Quran. You saw some of it a minute ago, major themes of the Quran. And I would say about 60 to 80 people start showing up every Saturday for 2 hours for 8 weeks. So guess what that did to me? That is like really, I just got lifted off the ground by the friendship, the brotherhood, the understanding I got from all these friends. So that is the highlights. The lowlights is the Quran in the garbage can with bacon on it. And the big light is, of course, and the big highlight is doing this class. Then in 2015, Roger McDaniel, you probably know him. He was the president of Cheyenne Interfaith Council. And so he put together a group and he wanted the three faiths, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, to come and answer one question that was in the Bible, that Jesus said, "Who do they think I am?" So guess what? So I was the first one to go, and the same thing, we reserved the little room. So we were expecting 10 to 15 people showed up. For mine, 110 showed up in total Cheyenne. And so I gave my presentation. The next week, we listened to the rabbi. And then the third person, we listened to a Christian. It was one of the biggest highlights in Cheyenne. So these are my experiences. And then I was involved in other things that I think this is enough for now. I need to answer more questions.
Well, thank you for talking about that a little bit. I think it's illuminating for folks, because I think, you know, it's good to hear those stories, both the successes and the struggles as well that go along with that.
And I want to mention one thing. Also one of my biggest highlights is to be involved in writing the bylaws, or changing the bylaws for this organization, Wyoming Interfaith Network. I made good friends in it. They do amazing things. They even kept me on their board while I live in, and I didn't actually want to get off. I made like a suggestion, a very weak suggestion that, oh, should I? They said, no, you can't. And I just said, yes. And I enjoy it a lot because they do amazing things. And you need to visit their website, Wyoming Interfaith Network, and you will learn all about them. They do great work. And one of them I want to give a compliment to is Gordon, right here, the one moderating this discussion.
Well, thank you, Mo. That is very nice. We do have some other questions, so I want to make sure that we get to those. So Warren is asking, what does eternal life and punishment for sinners look like in Islam? And is it still a bodily action?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it is very scary. It is described if you are thrown in this fire, which is like 70 times as hot as the fire we have now. And then depending on you, how bad your sins are, you are come out, you are giving another body, and then you are, but saying all this, Islam throughout the Quran, it says that God's mercy is like an ocean. His compassion exceeds his, so he can decide in the last minute what he is going to do with you. So there is some kind of punishment. And why does the Quran say it in those terms? These are the things we understand today. Fire, we stay away from it. It is hot, it burns you, it does. But is it going to be like that there? In the Quran, it says so, but what we are we rely on is God's mercy. And by the way, he's the only judge on that day. So no Muslim is guaranteed to go to heaven. No Christian is going to heaven through whatever. It all depends on God's, what he wants to do. And he reserves that judgment to himself. In the meantime, he asks you to do the right thing, because that will get you closer to heaven. So yes, it is a physical punishment, to answer it.
We have a next question from Trisha, and Trisha asks, what can Christians do to help others understand Islam?
First of all, for me, they say the misunderstanding or hate of Islam or Muslims, almost like 80%, But if you got to talk to a Muslim and interact with them, that drops down to less than 10%, because there is a lot of misconceptions about Islam being a terrorist religion, a religion that denigrates women, and so on and so on. But you will never know that until you interact with a Muslim. Teaching your, and then the best thing to say is that you really cannot be a very good Muslim or a real Muslim unless you are really, you believe in Judaism and Christianity and most of their teachings. Actually, Muslims, Moses is mentioned about 140 times in the Quran. Jesus is over 80. Muhammad was mentioned only 4 times. What does that tell you? These are revered prophets in the Quran. So Muslims, to be a Muslim, you really have to be a good Christian in a sense, you know, let's say, and a good Jew to really be a Muslim. Muslims will be very offended as much as when they talk about Muhammad and denigrate him, they will be so much offended if you say the same about Jesus or Moses. So the Christians can help us out by understanding that we believe in the same, we are really sister religions. The Quran is very close to the Bible in a lot of its teachings. Our prophets are the same. We start with Adam. Most of the stories are the same. So we are basically all the children of Abraham. He's our grandfather. But guess what? The biggest struggle, the biggest fights, the biggest disagreement are where? Between and among families.
Okay. So we have about 10 more minutes and we have about 3 more questions that are submitted so far. Our friend Julio says, hello, I'm a mental health worker and I want to ask if in general, it is permissible for a therapist to talk about nafs al-amara, even though he or she or they do not know about them.
Nafs what?
Nafs al-amara. Al-amra.
Nafs al-amara. Oh, the blaming soul. Yeah, this is, yeah, it is in the Quran. You have the blaming soul is like the devil talking to you, okay, and leading you astray. By the way, for Muslims, the devil exists. You try to do something good, and he tried to take you astray. He took this from God. God gave him respite to do this because he challenged God. So God sent him down, so al-nafs al-ammara means the nafs means soul, okay? And the soul, the evil soul. And you can talk about it, yes, to a person if you are in social science or a psychiatrist. Yes, it does exist. And how do you get rid of it? It is very simple. It's to go back and believe in God and do your prayer and do all the good things that God asks you to do. And that will elevate the soul to a higher level. And it's called the level of contentment. You are content. You become more centered, more believing, more connected to this life. So yes, it is possible you can talk that, but I'm not educated how you do that. So that's not my field. I wouldn't attempt to do it. I will just turn them to some supplications and some prayers in the Quran that a person can do that will help that person improve his soul. That's what it is.
So we have a question from Sue, and Sue asks if you have heard of the Abrahamic Reunion Group working for peace in Israel and Palestine.
I think I did. Yeah, he's a Palestinian, but I'm not very familiar totally with it. But I know there is another group that trying to bring the Palestinians and the Israelis together. And because they live on the same land, they are actually cousins if you think about it. And there is more than one group. There is 3 ladies who travel around the United States, a Jewish lady, a Muslim one, and a Christian. And they have a group. I think if you can even Google it, and they trying to bring people together. And by the way, Muslims are commanded to do that. They are commanded to reach out, to explain, but not to change people's mind, but just to explain what the religion says. And they are not to convert anybody. There is also this misunderstanding that if you talk to a Muslim, oh, he's just going to change you to Islam. You cannot do that. If it does not come from your heart and your deep belief, you are really not going, you cannot become a Muslim. So to answer her questions, I know a little bit about it, but not deep enough to tell you more about it. I'm sorry.
And Pamela asks, how do they decide when Ramadan will be in any year? And I want to add to that just a bit. Ramadan's coming up soon. So explain a little bit about how your life might change a little bit for that month of Ramadan and why it changes. If you could do all that.
Yeah,
that's a big question.
No, it's very simple. It changes every year by about 10 to 11 days because it goes with the lunar calendar. It is not the August, September, October calendar. It goes with the lunar calendar, which has 30 days in it. So every year, the Ramadan moves by 11 days. And there is even a wisdom into that. They say if you stay in the same place, for example, in Denver or Cheyenne, Wyoming, for 33 years, you will have fasted every day of those 365 days, which makes it easier. Like this summer is coming on, Ramadan is coming in on the 12th or the 13th of this month. So the day is going to be very long, about 15 hours, because it's before sunset, way before sunset, sunrise until sunset. So it's about 15 and a half hours. If I fasted in December, it's only about 8 hours. You see the difference? Because it moves. So there is wisdom in it using the lunar system, because it have you fast all the seasons. And what is the whole purpose of Ramadan? First of all, you fast from food, drinks, and everything, starting, say we do it like 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 to 4, all the way it will be about almost like right now, will be about 7:30, maybe close to 8. That's when you can eat something. During that time, no food, no drinks, no sexual relations, nothing, okay? None of this worldly stuff. And the whole idea of it is just not to starve you to death. The idea is to have you mostly, because what do we do is spending the whole day. Did I eat lunch? Did I get my Starbucks? Did I eat my breakfast? What are we going to eat for dinner? All this stuff, boom, take all that off your schedule. So what do you do with that time? That's when you go back to the thing I said in the Quran, the signs, S-I-G-N, to contemplate this life. It's a time of reflection. You read the Quran, you reflect on this life. Why are you here? Where are you going to be? And most importantly, before that, Above that is that you will taste what the people who have nothing suffer through. I live in Denver today, and there is almost 6,000 homeless people in the street. Guess what we are going to do in this Ramadan from our little mosque? We're going to make food for them, and we're going to take a truck, and we're going to feed people, because that's required of us to do. We are doing it right now every Friday anyway. We give 40 boxes of food every Friday to anybody walking down the street. So the idea is to go back and do that ihsan, that higher dimension of Islam, to give some of your money, to give some of your time, to reflect on your life, and to contemplate where you are going from here. And most importantly, to help the needy, those, the needy. So it is coming, and we are ready for it.
Yeah, it's coming. That's for sure. That's one of the guarantees, is that it is coming soon. So,
by the way, I want to say, when I was in Cheyenne, many of our friends, Christians and Jewish, they fasted with us. They just wanted to try it. And man, by 4 o'clock, they were just going to run away. But they held on. And one of my son's friends, he fasted all the way with him all the 30 days.
wow.
He just liked it so much. And then, of course, he's rewarded. My wife cooks a ridiculous amount of food for when we break the fast. So he wanted that. He did it. But anyway, it is amazing.
That's impressive. Yeah, I mean, if the iftar meal is that good, it can get you all the way to the end.
Yeah, it has baklava. It has all kind of lamb meat, chops. Oh my God.
That sounds amazing.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, Mo, we are about at our time. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, and to, the questions are always illuminating, and I always learn something new. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.